Baronlara gidelim. Dünyadaki baronları da bir görelim Ergun.
Tamam.
Ne dersin?
Sonra içeri gelelim ama.
He?
İçeri gelelim sonra.
Sonra
Tamam.
oradan içeri geleceğiz.
Tamam.
Evet. Dünyadaki baronlar ne yapıyorlar? Su borularına dikkat.
Scientists have sometimes criticized economists who believe ideas and concepts are more important than empirical data. Because a foundational guideline in science is let the data speak. Okay, let's do that. So we started with a database containing 30 million ownership relations from 2007. This is a lot of data. And because we wanted to find out who rules the world, we decided to focus on transnational corporations, or TNCs for short. These are companies that operate in more than one country, and we found 43,000. In the next step, we built a network around these companies. So we took all the TNC's shareholders, and the shareholders, etc., all the way upstream, and we did the same downstream, and ended up with a network containing 600,000 nodes and 1 million links. This is a TNC network which we analyzed. And it turns out to be structured as follows. So you have a periphery and a center, which contains about 75% of all the players. And in the center, there's this tiny but dominant core, which is made up of highly interconnected companies. To give you a better picture, think about a metropolitan area. So you have the suburbs and the periphery, you have a center like a financial district, then the core would be something like the tallest high-rise building in the center. And we already see signs of organization going on here. 36% of the TNCs are in the core only, but they make up 95% of the total operating revenue of all TNCs. Okay, so now we analyzed the structure. So how does this relate to the control? Well, ownership gives voting rights to shareholders. This is the normal notion of control. And there are different models which allow you to compute the control you get from ownership. If you have more than 50% of the shares in a company, you get control. But usually it depends on the relative distribution of shares. And the network really matters. About 10 years ago, Mr. Tronchetti Provera had ownership and control in a small company, which had ownership and control in a bigger company. You get the idea. This ended up giving him control in Telecom Italia with a leverage of 26. So this means that with each euro he invested, he was able to move 26 euros of market value through the chain of ownership relations. Now, what we actually computed in our study was the control over the TNC's value. This allowed us to assign a degree of influence to each shareholder. This is very much in the sense of Max Weber's idea of potential power, which is the probability of imposing one's own will despite the opposition of others. If you want to compute the flow in an ownership network, this is what you have to do. It's actually not that hard to understand. Let me explain by giving you this analogy. So think about water flowing in pipes, where the pipes have different thickness. So similarly, the control is flowing in the ownership networks and is accumulating at the nodes. So what did we find after computing all this network control? Well, it turns out that the 737 top shareholders have the potential to collectively control 80% of the TNC's value. Now remember, we started out with 600,000 nodes, so these 737 top players make up a bit more than 0.1%. They're mostly financial institutions in the US and the UK. And it gets even more extreme. There are 146 top players in the core, and they together have the potential to collectively control 40% of the TNC's value. What should you take home from all of this? Well, the high degree of control you saw is very extreme by any standard. The high degree of interconnectivity of the top players in the core could pose a significant systemic risk to the global economy. And we could easily reproduce the TNC network with a few simple rules. This means that its structure is probably the result of self-organization. It's an emergent property which depends on the rules of interaction in the system. Ideas relating to finance, economics, politics, society are very often tainted by people's personal ideologies. I really hope that this complexity perspective allows for some common ground to be found. It would be really great if it has the power to help end the gridlock created by conflicting ideas, which appears to be paralyzing our globalized world. Reality is so complex, we need to move away from dogma. But this is just my own personal ideology.
Evet. Glad bizim gibi bu işlere kafayı yoran değil mi? Yani kafayı burada daha da sıyırmış. Yani
Model geliştiriyor.
dibine kadar
Tabii.
girmiş. Bakmış ki dünyayı yöneten
Evet.
700 uluslararası çok uluslu şirket var.
Tabii.
Pardon 600 bin.
Tabii 600 bin.
600 bin. Bunların en tepesinde bunlar
146.
sporları gibi boğumlu birbirine bağlı, ona bağlı.
Aynen böyle.
Ve 700 küsür aile bu işi götürüyor
İşte
ama
Gladfeder oraya kadar gelebilmiş.
Evet.
Biraz daha gitse Rothschild ve Rockefeller'ı görecek. Rockefeller'ın aslında Rothschild'in içinden çıkan bir güç olduğunu görecek. İşte bunu söylüyoruz. Ne diyor? Finans baronları Amerika ve İngiltere'de
diyor.
Biz ne diyoruz?
biz uyduruyoruz.
Ne saklanıyor bu insanlardan, bu bizim yüce milletimizden? Bu.
Bunlar
İçeridekilerin de bu baronların adamı olduğu gerçeği saklanıyor.
Amerika'da
Yok
bunlar anlatılıyor.
laiklikle,
Evet.
yok cumhuriyeti koruyacağım diye sen ülkeyi al, konserve kutusuna sığdır, ufacık, küçücük, kimliksiz, kişiliksiz bir Türkiye istediğin gibi kullan. İtiraz ediyoruz. Biz büyüyeceğiz. Büyük Türkiye kurulacak. İsteseler de, istemeseler de. O yüzden yanımızdakine sadece ve sadece dikkat edelim. Bu.
Evet, bu arada